students, my name is Sunana. I welcome you all again to learn the subject of social studies with me. Today we will be doing the 4th unit in sociology of your social science textbook. The chapter is called social problems. Social, of course, relating to society. The problems that exist in our society is what we would be studying in this chapter. Let's look at what are the various problems. We will be learning about child labor. Second, we will be learning about sexual harassment on children. Third, we will learn about female feticide. Female feticide, I have also discussed it earlier, where if they detect that in the womb it is a girl child, they will kill the child in the womb itself and not bring the child to the world. Hunger and malnutrition, gender discrimination, child marriage, human trafficking of children. When I say trafficking, I also explained the meaning of trafficking in the last chapter. Trafficking is buying and selling of children like goods or commodities. And lastly, we will discuss steps to solve all of these problems. So let's first begin with our problem number 1, child labor. What is the meaning of child labor? When children are forced to go to work in conditions that are very harmful for them, in conditions that are not safe for them, is called child labor. The labor of children, underage children, okay, it's mainly labor of underaged children, is considered as child labor. For 1 mark from examination point of view, it is extremely important. According to the Indian Constitution, what is the age at which a person can start working? Let us look at it. According to the Indian Constitution, if children below the age of 14 years are working for financial consideration, and it's called as child labor. So if any child who is below the age of 14 and is working somewhere for some financial compensation like salaries, fees, wages, it is considered as child labor. The constitutional definition of child labor is extremely important. It's almost asked every year. In developing countries like India, misuse of children and their labor is a social problem. As per the census of 2011, 12.6 million children are under forced labor. Where? In houses, factories, agriculture and various other fields. 125 million children are forced as child laborers worldwide. So students, a minute outside the lesson, if you see any child being employed unfairly in factories, in homes or in any other setting, you should stand up for their rights, because your childhood is for you to get education, for you to have a better life in the future. So you should not let child labor happen. It is not right. Now let's go further. The forced labor has reduced the intellectual and physical health of children. They miss their education. Now if they are going to work, they are doing forced labor, how will they get educated? And they disappear before they can develop some skills, and they are not even physically so strong like an adult to do so much of work. Who is a child labor? Any child or all children or any children who are below 14 years and out of school are considered as child labor. Whether they work for money or not, either are within their house or are outside their house and are working, all of them are called child labor. So if you're below 14, school is the place for you to be. Not working anywhere, in the house, outside the house, no, it's not the place for you to be. Can they get out of work, get to work after 15 years? No, it is not so. The government has amended the law, and according to the law of 2016, adolescent labor prohibition, they cannot work everywhere. They can work in few places but not everywhere. This law has amended the 1986 Law of Child Labour Prohibition and Regulations Act and has barred children above 15 years of age to engage in any dangerous activities. Like if a child is above 14 years of age till 16, you cannot employ this child in fireworks manufacturing or any harmful industry. So now we will learn more about this law now. According to the Child Adolescent Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986, is the year important? Very important. Is the name of the act important? Very important. No children below 14 years must be employed in any sector for any reason, in-house, outside house, in factory house. If below 14, no, strict no. According to the Article 14 of this Act, a fine of rupees 50,000 and 2 years of imprisonment is imposed on the violators. Any family that cannot engage their children below 18 years of age in any household activities during the school hours. If they are engaged, the parents and the head of the family is declared as offenders and they also have to pay a fine of 10,000 rupees. As per this Act, children between the age of 15 and 18 are considered as adolescent children. Again, a very important question from examination point of view. Who are adolescent children as per this Act? And these adolescent children should not be employed in any dangerous employment. So for below 14, all sectors are banned and not allowed. For these, any dangerous employment is not allowed. If violated, a fine of rupees 50,000 is imposed on the violators. This Act had added 2 more sectors as dangerous employments, and 29 sectors are identified as dangerous in Industrial Act of 1948. So totally there are 31 sectors where children between 14 to 16 years of age are not allowed to be employed. For example, mining, production of explosives, production of combustible products. Students, you can learn the name of just 2 of them, it's enough. Iron and steel manufacturing, repair of motorcycle and vehicles, cement and rubber production, chemical manufacturing cannot employ children below 18 years. If employed, it is punishable. So students, why do you think child labor happens? It happens because there is a lack of environment that protects the rights of these children. It is the main reason for 3 very big problems: child labor, child marriage, and human trafficking of children. The greedy owners, the owners who normally do this, they are very greedy. They only want selfish gains and advantage. They strive for less wages and more work is the reason of child labor. Due to agricultural crisis resulting out of drought. What is drought? Drought is when there is no rain and the crops have failed. So this leads to a kind of agricultural crisis. And other reasons force these people to leave their rural areas and farmlands and come to urban areas to migrate in search of work. In such a situation, when the parents are not able to take care of themselves itself, the children are forced to work. Work where? They end up working in hotels, firecracker manufacturing units and other dangerous sectors, and all of these fall under unorganized sector. So, failure to implement compulsory and universal education has resulted in non-availability of education to all children. So there is the constitution that says that there will be education for all, but while the plan is there, while the law is there, when it comes to implementation, when it comes to actually giving this to all citizens of India, the act has failed. This is also one of the main reasons for existence of child labor. This has further increased the participation of children in labor. Failure to implement Land Reforms Act and Minimum Wages Act. So there are 2 more acts that have led to child labor. First, land reforms. What is the meaning of land reforms? So there is a lot of exploitation of farmers in the rural areas. If they reform these land tax policies, the farmer gets more rights and he will not be in so much suffering and misery. So then there will be lack of migration, the rural areas will be happier. This won't lead to child labor, it will lead to prosperity. Second, Minimum Wages Act, minimum guarantee that you will get this much as a wage. So the failure of implementation of these two acts as well has added to child labor. Because it leads to poor financial condition, students see problems are related. If there is financial problem and if your parents in the house don't have enough money even for providing food, how will they provide you with facilities to go to school? They would instead want you to work and earn some money yourself. So all these problems are interconnected. So whenever they try to solve a problem, they try to solve it at its root. So students, we have seen what is child labor, what is the meaning of child labor, what the various acts that have been made to prevent child labor, and we also saw why there is child labor. Now students, we shall be discussing demerits or disadvantages of child labor. Child labor affects the physical and psychological growth of children negatively. It's so simple to understand, students. A child who is supposed to go to school, if they go to work, they will not be able to study or gain knowledge to make their life in the future. And with so much of physical work at such a small age, when the body is not physically developed, will also lead to a lot of health problems. So children who have worked as child labor suffer from various ill health issues as adults. As children engaged in labor at tender age, they become illiterate because they do not get the opportunity to go to school and they miss their most basic rights. Child labor also restricts social and economic mobility. Students, what do we mean by social and economic mobility? When you can grow in society from a lower class to a higher class, or from having lesser resources to having more resources, that's called social and economic mobility. Children become the target of exploitation repeatedly in such families, and it leads to three things: child marriage, human trafficking, and child labor. As a result of this, there is also a lot of sexual exploitation that happens, especially in the case of girls. Many of the children get infected with various diseases and they also become physically deformed. From examination point of view, students, both the questions, what are the reasons of child labor and what are the demerits of child labor, is very important. So one of the major solutions to the problem of child labor is ensuring that all children below the age of 18 to be in schools. And it's not just the government's responsibility, it's all our responsibility. Like every section of society should participate to see to it, if there are any children below the age of 18, they should be at school. Now let's go and understand, So what could be the solution to this problem of child labor? The solution is that all children who are below the age of 18 should be at schools. But it also requires participation of all the members from all sections of society. How can we all participate to prevent child labor? Let's look at it. 1. Ensure gender equality always. Don't differentiate between boy and girl. Ensure gender equality and treat boys and girls equally. Stopping migration of helpless families. Like we discussed, students, in rural areas they may not have jobs, they may move to urban areas for work, and here, because it is more expensive to meet the basic needs, the children may also be forced to work. So stopping migration and solving the problem in the villages itself by having better farming, by having more yield per hectare, by having more resources in rural areas itself. Next, creating awareness on child marriage and human trafficking. So more awareness should be generated that child marriage is not right. What are the harms of it? What are the harms of human trafficking? and so on, and ensuring better implementation of child rights through Gram Panchayat. So at the most local levels of Grama Panchayat as well, all the rights should be enforced and all the laws that are pertaining to child rights must be implemented. Now we will be talking about a very, it even pains my heart to say that this happens. We will be talking about sexual harassment against children. So this problem is very grave. It must not happen at all. So now we will discuss this in detail. Protecting Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012 is brought to address the increasing sexual offences against children in families and public spheres. So there is an act, a law that has been made in the year 2012. Any sexual offence done against children is covered under this act. Let's look at what this act tells. Any act of unsafe touch, exploitation, violence, harassment, and assault on any children, boy or girl, under the age of 18 years is considered as sexual offence. This act was brought into effect on June 19th, 2012. Students, now we will go into discussing what is a safe touch and what is an unsafe touch. So my dear students, when your mother or father, when they come and hug you, that is a safe touch. Safe touches are those which are healthy for the children. When a doctor is checking you or inspecting, when he is checking your health and your mother is next to you in front of the doctor, that is a safe touch. Touches like holding hands, hugging, when children want it, patting on the back and saying good, all of these are safe touches. What is an unsafe touch, children? Unsafe touch is a touch that makes you uncomfortable. It is not healthy for a child. For example, touches that include hitting, forcefully hugging and kissing in a way that it is hurting, and not by your mom or dad or very close family members, or if anybody is forcing you to show your private parts to them, or they are trying to touch your private parts, all of these are unsafe touches. If anyone ever touches you in an unsafe way, you must immediately go and tell to one of the adults. It could be your parents, it could be a teacher. You should keep telling the adults until somebody meets this person who has touched you in an unsafe way and stops right there. Okay, students, don't be scared. If this ever happens to you, you should face this with all braveness and courage, and don't let anybody touch you in an unsafe way. So what we learned, when mom or dad come and hug us, when they pat our back, when they hold our hands, or when we meet the doctor, when our parent is with us, this is a safe touch. The other things that make us uncomfortable, that are not right, are unsafe touches. Okay, students, now let's go back to learning sexual harassment of children. So now we will go through the definition again. Any act of unsafe touch, all you children know now what is an unsafe touch. Exploitation, violence, if somebody is hitting you, kicking you, trying to forcefully touch you in an inappropriate way, harassment and assault. Assault is when they are trying to hold you, grab you, force themselves on you. All of this is considered as sexual offense if it's on a child, whether it's a boy or a girl under the age of 18 years. So this act has a lot of features that it considers sexual offense. Let us look at them now. Now students, we will discuss the features of this act. Penetrative sexual assault is considered a crime, aggravated, forceful, penetrative sexual assault, just sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, sexual harassment, using children to produce pornographic means nude, naked videos, collection of obscene or not appropriate photographs of children is considered a crime. If any of these above mentioned violence happens on children based on the nature of violence, very, very severe punishments are imposed on the criminals or violators.